evening to you, and thanks so much for joining us tonight on UpNorthLive Unscripted. Whew, okay, good start. Can't even say the name of our show. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas, and hopefully you didn't have too many expectations for a snowy Christmas, because we certainly didn't see that, but we had some snow on the ground. However, that is indeed starting to melt. So let's bring in our chief meteorologist, Joe Charlevoix. And by the way, Joe, I just realized that we're both wearing pink. We're matching today.
Wow, yeah.
It's kind of awkward. Like, one of us will probably have to change because we can't be wearing the same thing.
I didn't coordinate with you. Sorry about that.
Anyway, okay, let's talk more about the weather.
Yeah, we got a white Christmas in.
Yep.
For most, there's snow on the ground, but we are melting that. We've got some fog out there tonight, and this mild pattern is going to hang around for a few more days. So I do think it's going to do a number on the snowpack coming up here. No, there is snow in the forecast. It's just like a week away.
Okay.
But we will, I think, once we get into the new year, see some of that. So we'll talk more about that. We'll look at how warm it's going to get. And I'll look at the weekend, too, coming up a little later.
Sounds good. Thanks, Joe. And our top story tonight is an update on a story we first shared with you during our 6 o'clock and 11 o'clock newscasts on Christmas Day last night. So a house fire in Chippewa County left a family of 6 without a home. Firefighters and volunteers dropped everything on Christmas Day to put out the blaze, and now the community is stepping up to deal with the aftermath. Our Daniel Zivian spoke with a witness and with the family of the victims.
On Christmas morning, the roads just outside of Rudyard were empty. That afternoon, firemen poured in to extinguish a house fire, an effort which a neighbor says ran into the early morning after the fire reignited.
They told me it's impossible unless they can pull the logs out and everything to make sure you get everything, because they will, fires like that will reignite because it's almost impossible. They put a lot of water on that. Trucks were running back and forth.
Chippewa County Victim Services Unit was able to help the family members who all survived. The community is working quickly to meet their basic needs, especially for the 4 children. The eldest is 5 years old, the youngest born just a month ago.
Just getting them the socks, the underwear, some basic T-shirts, pants, and we're going to kind of move forward from there. Once we get a little bit of a feel as to which direction we're going, they will need housing, so that's all taking place as well. Once they get into housing, they will be needing furniture items. Everything was lost in the fire, so everything that they had, even their Christmas presents for their children, are all gone.
McCurchie posted on GoFundMe and says she will steward all of the funds. She's also accepting drop-off donations at her house in Sault Ste. Marie, which McCurchie says is already filling up with both necessities and toys for the kids who don't realize they aren't going back home.
Within 15 or 20 minutes, I had folks that were reaching out to me immediately to see what they could do to help. So the support has been amazing and very heartwarming. Overwhelming, and the community has really come together for Kayla and her family.
In Chippewa County, Daniel Zivian, UpNorthLive News.
And again, everyone did survive, but we are told that the father, his name is Jeremy, is in the hospital due to smoke inhalation. We have much more information and a link to their GoFundMe page on our website, UpNorthLive.com. Well, oftentimes, holiday traditions are things to be celebrated, but there is one very concerning tradition that puts lives at risk. So nationwide, reports of domestic violence incidents tend to tick up during the holiday time. And our Mark Gillette spoke with the Women's Resource Center and shares this message that they want everyone to know tonight.
And if we can help one survivor at a time and help them heal, then we've done our job.
And that job for Executive Director Juliette Schultz and the team at the Women's Resource Center in Traverse City is to protect, shelter, and empower.
We're here 24/7. Our advocates are answering the phones. We have an emergency shelter, and we're here to provide support to victims of domestic and sexual violence.
That job, full-time, year-round.
We're getting up to 5,000 calls a year, and 1,000 of those calls are from survivors in immediate danger, which means they need to flee. They need assistance with transportation. They need a shelter, a place where they can come and be safe with their kids. And those are the services that we provide.
And while the holidays may mean time off from work for most of us, the holidays can actually be a busier time at places like this
For sure, there is an increase in domestic violence incidents nationally.
Nationwide, what's sometimes described as a surge in domestic violence surrounding Christmas and New Year's.
Honestly, it's a choice of behavior. Maybe the tensions are escalating during the holidays. The financial pressure is greater. People are drinking more, but the reality is that none of those things create somebody's behavior. They make a choice. So making a choice to abuse somebody is not caused by any outlying factor other than you making that choice.
A choice that takes a lot of different forms.
Domestic violence is economic abuse. It's financial abuse. It's psychological abuse, emotional abuse. It's sexual abuse, and it's physical abuse. And so I think the thing that we need to remember is that it's not just about somebody hitting another person or physically harming somebody else. There are so many other types of abuse that people are enduring.
And people often need help to get to a place where enduring is replaced with thriving.
Most, I'd say 100% really, of the people that walk through our door who are victims of domestic violence walk out with a safety plan, which is really important for the safety of the survivor.
And that's where this place comes into play.
We've been doing this for 50 years. So we feel pretty confident that we're able to help in almost any scenario.
Because after all, even when all seems dark,
there's always hope.
On a lighter note, the Salvation Army of Cadillac is ringing with joy as it reaches its $200,000 kettle campaign goal. And Captain Greg Bach spent an entire week, as you can see in this picture, living in that giant red kettle. So his goal of doing this is not only to raise money for the Red Kettle campaign for the Salvation Army, but to also raise awareness for those experiencing homelessness. So Captain Bach typically will live in the Red Kettle until Christmas Eve or until he reaches his goal. So this year, it was Monday, December 23rd, he reached his goal by raising $210,000. And Captain Bach says the community always steps up to help reach this goal. And they even had donors as far away as Fort Worth, Texas. And Captain Bach is joining us live now so we can hear much more about his experience in that giant red kettle. Captain Bach, thanks so much for joining us on Unscripted.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So we know that this is not your first year doing this, where you go and stay in the red kettle for a week. So take us back to where this idea came from and when you started doing this.
Yeah, I remember sitting in my office. I was the business manager for the Salvation Army in Sheboygan County years and years ago, to that 2012, I think it was. And I saw Petoskey had a very large kettle that was donated to them by Moran Iron Works, or they made it for the Petoskey Salvation Army. And I thought, that's kind of a cool kettle. And I'm a Rotarian, and one of my fellow Rotarians, Gary Voisin, said, "You should see how many quarters you can fill that thing with." And I thought, I wouldn't do that. I might sleep in it, though, just joking around. So I told my family, I said, I'm going to sleep in this giant red kettle. Told my bosses that, and they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. They didn't know it until I went on Facebook Live that I was actually sleeping in the giant kettle. The Sheboygan community has a Christmas parade, and at the very end of the Christmas parade, they light the Christmas tree at Festival Square. Mm-hmm. And unbeknownst to everybody else with the parade, I pulled that kettle right up next to that Christmas tree, and I planted it right there. And when they lit up the Christmas tree, I announced that I'm staying in this kettle till we raise $10,000, and I'm not coming down until then. And within 4 days, thankful for Dave Fernelius, he rescued me out of the kettle at that time.
Wow. So it kind of started off as a joke that you then thought, like, oh, wait, I should actually do this.
Oh, yeah. So missionaries have done this for a long time. They live on billboards to raise money for the people they serve in missions. And I thought, that's a big red kettle. It's wide enough to lay down in, and there's shelter because there's a platform in the underneath part, so you can go down there and try to take refuge. And that Christmas in Sheboygan, that 4 days in Sheboygan, there was sleet, there was snow, there was lots of wind, and I almost gave up a few times, but again, homeless friends came by and saw me and said, "You can do this. We know how to do this very well. We'll help you do it." And they hooked up the kettle for me with tarps and that kind of thing to get me through that first winter I did it up in Sheboygan.
Wow, that is amazing. So walk us through what your daily routine looked like living in this kettle.
Yeah, so I'd wake up, I'd have to clean my bed up. Most of the time, the bed would be in the underneath part of the kettle. Like I said, the top of the kettle is much wider than the bottom of it, and so it's easier to stretch out, to stretch your legs, to put a mat down and to sleep in the thing on top. Well, this time, my 7th year here in Cadillac doing this is it was so cramped because it rained and it snowed and it was negative 10 degrees at night. So I had to get the bed cleaned up because if I opened the door to go on top of the kettle, the snow would fall. And I don't think I've ever had so much snow fall on me in the 7 years I've done a kettle stay. But then it was like just getting the heat turned on. I had propane heaters. Ace Hardware here in Cadillac sponsored that for us, gave us propane. And I'd start going on Facebook Live, making Facebook posts, reaching out to donors, talking to partners in town. People would drop by the kettle and they'd bring me food. I promise you, I think I've had probably 25 cups of hot chocolate in that week that I stayed in that kettle. And I had like Amy Gibbs from Cadillac Habitat for Humanity. She brought stuff by. Pastor Mike Horlacher from Cadillac First Presbyterian Church. He brought stuff by. Many people from different agencies. Andy Ulrich from Nut Away, he brought dinner by one night. They always made sure I was taken care of. And when I go up with very little, especially little food, and people bring me these things, like community members, regular community members, I can share with them. I say, thank you for this, but let me tell you about how when you put $1 in the regular kettles, how this translates into food for the hungry, lights for those who have a turn-off notice, heat in the homes for people who just got it turned off for them or in jeopardy of getting it turned off. And I can kind of educate that way because not a lot of people realize what that money goes to once it goes from their hands into the little slot on top of the red kettle.
Sure.
And it actually goes to help people sustain basic necessities for living to make their life better and love beyond the issues they face all year long.
So what are people's reactions when they find out that you are doing this, when they see you in this red kettle?
Well, it's so funny. Whenever I was in Iowa and I did it in Iowa, it was in front of a Hy-Vee grocery store. And this was probably the most busiest grocery store in the town. And the kettle, it's high up. It's not too high, but it's pretty up there. And as people would walk in, I'd say, "Hey, hi," or wave to them, and they'd look around and they wouldn't see anything. "I'm up here," and they'd, "Whoa!" And even now in Cadillac, as people drove by and would look up at me with just these big eyes, like, "What's that guy up there doing?" I'd wave, and some would stop, and they'd say, "Are you crazy?" And I'd say, "Well, yeah, you kind of have to live in a giant red kettle at the week of Christmas, So it was comments like, "Are you crazy?" to "How much do you have left to raise? How can I help? Or what can I bring you?" The most moving story I have is from Sheboygan. When I was in Sheboygan and a mom and her son came to the kettle, it was like 9 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. And the mom said, "We don't have a lot of money to give you." And I said, "That's fine. You can come up in the kettle and take a picture and do it, just hang out." And she said, "Well, we're having dinner and we saw you on Up North Live. And we wanted to know if my son asked actually if he could bring you a plate of our dinner. We can't afford to give you money, but would a warm plate of our dinner help sustain you through the night in that kettle?" And I thought, these are people that understand. You might not be able to have money to give, but you can, just your presence, bringing food or ringing a bell for the Salvation Army, it goes so far.
Yeah.
And just making sure we can meet the needs. And of course, I gladly accepted. That was a really good pork chop, I think it was, that I had that night. But even in Cadillac, when people would stop by and they would just come out of the thrift store, they'd say, "Hey, what are you doing up there?" And I'd share with them, "I'm living in the big red kettle to make sure that if I have to live cold for a week so others don't have to, who are homeless or facing food insecurity or the turn-off notice or the pink slip or the repo notice for their car, whatever it may be, I'll do that to make sure that we can help those folks through that struggle, because the struggle is real right now for everybody.
Sure.
And most of the reactions were just, very kind. Wanted to know how they can support, and and told me, how can I watch you do this? And I would tell them our Facebook page, and so we had a lot of support that way too.
The Northern Michigan community is so amazing, and everyone is always so willing to step up and help when the need is there. So I wish we could talk more about this, because I do have more questions, but unfortunately, Captain Bach, we are out of time. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for doing everything that you're doing for the Salvation Army and the Cadillac community. It is really amazing and really inspiring. But we do have to take a quick commercial break. We will check back in with our Chief Meteorologist, Joe Charlevoix. He'll have much more on your forecast for the weekend straight ahead.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
Let's look ahead to the upcoming weekend and bring in Chief Meteorologist Joe Charlevoix. So, Joe, today was a warmer day throughout northern Michigan, a lot of melting. Is that trend going to continue into the weekend?
Yeah, it is. It's going to stay mild with even some rain coming in as well. Now, if you love winter and the snow lovers, we have something for you too coming up here.
Just got to wait a little. Be patient.
Yeah, you got to be patient. A little bit down the road as we get into the new year. But the issue tonight, Maya, it's just warm. And you can see, look at the temperatures there. We're in the 30s, downstate 40s, although Traverse City's 40 degrees. And so we're melting the snow, and that's setting up some fog as well. This is a visibility map around the western Great Lakes right here in miles. And we've had some thick fog where you see the orange and yellow shadings, especially back across the lake into Wisconsin, where it's pretty thick. 4 counties in our area, Osceola, Mecosta, including Big Rapids, Clare, and Isabella counties are under a dense fog advisory until midnight tonight because of some of that fog. The next system that's going to impact us, usually we look out way off to the west. Well, tonight you got to look down in Texas. That's where that area of low pressure there near Houston is going to lift north, like pretty much straight north, and pass west of us through the western Great Lakes coming up here, and that will bring in a round of rain. They have had some severe weather down there. The red box there, a tornado watch, as these storms rumble north of Houston into parts of Louisiana. Here's what we're looking at back home. We're just going to stay cloudy. There will be some showers tonight, showers tomorrow, and then here comes that area of low pressure. So tomorrow night, especially into Saturday morning early, that chance for some rain right there. More of a steadier rain, and then lingering showers expected Saturday. And then Sunday, a separate system. Yeah, maybe a little rain snow south of an Alpena-Ludington line right there. As far as sunshine, don't look if you want sun. Not very good prospects coming up here. And I mentioned the chance for some snow. So we're going to fast forward here. This is on New Year's Eve night, next Tuesday. And then look at what happens here. We get some lake effect snow kicking in, it looks like, Wednesday and Thursday. So there is some snow. It looks like it's going to be after the start of the new year, however. And there you go, the extended forecast. This is put it all up in a nice picture here, and there it is. Temperatures in the 40s. We gradually will start cooling back down. And again, once we get into the new year, there is that chance for some snow, Maya. So a bit of melting until then, and then we start cooling down.
Alrighty. Thank you, Joe. We are going to take a quick commercial break, but stay with us. Sports is next. You're watching Up North Live Unscripted.
The following segment is sponsored by Jimmy John's of Traverse City. 2025, it's on the horizon, and we want to start with some local predictions. James, what is your Northern Michigan prediction for 2025?
I'm gonna say that Onekama girls basketball gets to the Final Four this year. They've started out 3-0. They've looked pretty good doing it. Beat a couple of good teams in Elk Rapids and Glen Lake to win that Elk Rapids Invitational, and they just have a nice deep team. They've got a couple of girls who transferred in from Manistee Catholic Central when that school closed, and they've got a nice gritty team. I mean, they were down 23 or 25, I think it was at one point against Elk Rapids, and came back to win that game. So I think that just says volumes about what they have going there.
I am going to step away from the world of high school sports for my local prediction in 2025. I'm going to Memorial Day weekend, the Bayshore Marathon, and I believe that Zach Ripley will return and win his fourth Bayshore title, fourth in a row after doing three this past year. The guy just seems unstoppable. So if he decides to come back, it's always a question with him, but usually when his family is vacationing here during that weekend, he runs in the marathon. So I think if he runs, he'll win a fourth straight Bayshore.
James had mentioned the Gaylord softball program earlier in the week for winning the repeating as state champions in Division II for 2024. I'm going to go to the repeating of repeat state champions for Gaylord. And you guys don't cover them, but the Everett Wildcats also won a state championship in softball that day. They are bringing back they're bringing back a lot more players than Gaylord is. Gaylord's got Aubrey Jones still in the lineup, so I'm confident in them because she's going to hit a home run pretty much every time she's at the plate. And yeah, I'm calling a back-to-back Gaylord state championship, Everett state championship. So the Gaylord three-peat will be in effect, and Everett will bring home 2 straight state titles. So there's going to be a lot more Northern Michigan banner raising to be done in June when it comes to the softball competitions. That is my 2025 look-ahead prediction.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
We didn't have time to pull up our question of the day earlier in the show, so sorry about that. But it is, do you give money to the Salvation Army campaign? You can see the live results on your screen right now. We have about 324 votes. And in case you missed the beginning of the show, we talked with Captain Greg Bach from the Cadillac Salvation Army. He stayed in that giant red kettle for 1 week and helped the campaign raise more than $200,000. Well, that'll do it tonight for Up North Live Unscripted. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we hope to see you back here at 11 o'clock. Take care, everyone.